Whenever I get in an Uber, it's like, this guy's got, 4.9 stars and has done, 5,500 rides or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
true.
okay.
I'm a 5,500 rides or more. I can't do lower than that. I won't do
This
it.
is this guy's job.
Yeah,
okay?
no, yeah, he's working.
And there's going to be a moment, I think, where RAX is going to be like, people are going to be like, okay, I'm a really savvy shopper. So I can kind of game the formula. I'm going to go out and buy the expensive Prada or whatever high-end clothes. I'm going to get it on sale and I'm going to rent it out.
Last week, Marley Alles gave us a 101 on her startup, RAX. She had some awesome insights into starting a peer-to-peer business. This week, Chris and I dissect her strategy and drew out some of the key learnings. It's time for another episode of Startup Different. Hey, Dave here. Before we get into today's episode, Chris and I wanted to give you some exciting news. We wrote a book. Surprise! It's called Startup Different, the myth-busting blueprint for your multi-million-dollar business. And it comes out October 1st, 2024. Like our show, we're trying to pay it forward to our fellow entrepreneurs to help you learn from our successes and failures. The book busts over 33 myths, tells some of our most hilarious stories, and gives you many of our best tools to build, scale, and exit your business. Pre-orders for paperback, ebook, and audiobook start Labor Day, Monday, September 2nd. You'll find the book at all the major online retailers, including Amazon. Check it out. We think it's pretty great. And now, on to the show. Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of Startup Different. I'm Dave. He's the other guy, Chris. Chris, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Hey, we're in the studio.
I know. It's amazing.
It's pretty cool.
Like literally cool. It's nice and chilly.
Do you
in here.
remember?
I like it.
Okay, so just a shameless plug here for 1 second. Remember, we have our book coming out for pre-order starting in September called Startup Different, and it comes out officially on October 2nd, I want to say. Yep. But big thing about this though is that we were going to call the book The Legit Startup at one point.
Yes.
Because we thought that sounded cool, but we realized it kind of implied that other startups aren't legit, which is not really what I was going for. Anyway, long story short, we didn't end up doing that. But you know what? I think this set makes us feel very legit.
It does.
Okay, that is a really long segue into I like this place. So, hey, what did you think of Marley?
Amazing.
Oh, by the way, I have some notes. Today.
Okay.
I'm holding.
So you're going to guide the conversation.
Well, I'm going to try.
That's good.
As long as you don't blow it.
Can I give you my first overall impression?
Yeah.
I'm like, I just love that she has a ton of courage. She just went out and did the thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people who have ideas. There's a lot of people who think, oh, I've got $1 million idea. It's great. I'm gonna hold it to myself, and I'm gonna, it's gonna be my thing. And then they never do anything.
Yeah.
And Marley is a doer. She's goes out there and does it, which is amazing.
She made a product with no coding experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that is it's almost like a potentially negative, level of bias to action because, she
courage.
It's courage. Definitely no fear of adversity. And then let's just do a quick recap. Now, folks, you should watch the episode if you haven't seen it. It was a really great interview about her company RAX, which is a peer-to-peer clothing rental business. Very interesting. You got a bunch of clothes in your closet. You can put them up on the site. You rent them out. You make money at it. I can actually see people having pretty good businesses, as a result. She's building basically the network, of lenders. And I say this in the interview too, but I liked it. I love businesses that are idle capital businesses.
Yeah.
I when I think of, if we're going to do another thing at some point or whatever, I do like to think about what is something I've spent a lot on, I have somewhere, and can somehow sell to someone else.
Collecting dust right now.
Yeah.
And I can make it not collect dust and instead put money in my
like Uber being the ultimate one, Airbnb to some extent, part of your house, or maybe a rental property, or a cottage property you might have or something like that.
The advantage though to RAX is that with Uber, you got to go out there and drive that car.
Yeah.
So your time is going to be consumed by it. Whereas with RAX, I think it's pretty minimal amount of time.
And people come get it, right?
Yeah.
I feel like you could definitely have I'm going to call it an Amazon locker. You know what I mean? Where, oh, you want to rent a pair of pants or whatever? Like, I'm just making this pair of your Amazon Basics. Man, that was you were getting ripped on. I am sorry. That was a lie.
I'm going to put the Amazon Basics like affiliate link into the description of this podcast. See if I can make some money on the side.
And now a word from our sponsors at Amazon Basics. Anyway, but I think that you could definitely have the business though, where you're just basically filling the locker with the product, and then you say, here's the pin, come pick it up, whatever. Like, you could have almost no touch point.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I think my condo building just got like these parcel delivery lockers. And I think part of it, like the obvious model is you're getting a delivery. The courier puts it in the locker and they say, this is for whatever your unit number is. And it sends you a text message and tells you to go pick up your package. But I think it also works the other way, where when you're doing a return, you can leave something in the locker for somebody to pick up. So I wonder if, I don't know, maybe this is another business idea that Marley could pivot with on RAX, but could it be that they don't even have to really interact? It could be just like, oh, I'll leave it in my building's parcel locker as a return, and you just show up and put in this code and you've got the thing. So you don't have to be like at home when the person wants to come pick up.
One of those like friction points, right? Like, I think just about all businesses are trying to reduce these points of friction between like the whatever the thing it does, right? And the adoption of that thing. Yeah. I definitely, I don't think it's difficult to imagine that business being ultimately almost automatic. And I think for her biggest challenge, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in a little bit when we talk more about her product, but I think her biggest challenge is finding ways to automate a lot of this experience or make it very easy to put up a listing like in 30 seconds of coming to the website and saying, I want to do this, or coming to the app and saying, I want to do this. I have something up there. Yeah.
Like, with a suggested how fast price can you put it up there and make the data really good, make the photos really good, all that kind of stuff. I think goes a long way. But I think she is really looking at the friction points. When she was talking about the shipping, how if it was a situation where somebody was borrowing something that required shipping, the RAX app was giving you the shipping label as the lender.
That was cool.
Okay. Yeah. That's a big deal. That actually makes life really easy. I would have thought, oh, great. Now I've got to go to I don't know.
Like, who wants to go to Canada Post, right?
Yeah. Or I don't know. Like,
no offense to the good people at Canada Post.
Yeah. It's just really annoying. And then you got to fill out on the form with the pen and
she alluded to the complexity. Like, first off, let me just agree with you. That is a really big point. And actually, I think about when that works really well with Amazon returns. Here's your label, slap it on the box, no problem. Yeah, but I do think that when she was talking about the complexity of expanding into the U.S. market and having someone from Canada with a product like a pair of pants or whatever, and trying to ship that to someone in the United States or vice versa, that's really complicated.
Yeah, and they don't understand you're lending it. You know what I mean? Customs and duties and all that sort of stuff. There's
no form.
I don't know if that works anymore. Like, it would have to be I don't know, ball gown that,
like a sequin ball gown.
Like, honestly, that was worth a fortune to be worthwhile, because I feel like you would spend more on the shipping.
Remember, you have to do those special invoices too. Like, there's a whole bunch of steps there.
Yeah, the border is a big.
And you need the slip packet, because you need a whole bunch of different pieces of paper to get it through that border.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyway, we digress here a little bit.
But actually, that's a pretty good segue into what we were, I think, going to talk about first here, which was kind of like the product proliferation. So how it starts off as this little idea, we're going to lend clothes. Okay, we're going to be the network to lend clothes. And then really quickly, you're adding other things. Well, we're going to automate the shipping label. We're going to, try and come up with ways where it's like people like close to you. We're going to try and integrate with lockers, things like that. I don't even know if that's on our roadmap or not, but
well, she's probably watching this right now. So Marley, put that on the roadmap. Although we don't like roadmaps. Yeah. Or really, you don't like roadmaps. I could maybe be convinced, but anyway.
Yeah. And we just had that interview with Marley, and it's interesting, the debrief that almost happens after the interview, and some really interesting insights came out that I'm thinking we could probably share now, because we are debriefing it. But one of the really interesting things, our producer was like, what about like a buy now option?
Shout out to producer Graham again. Hey, there, another salute.
Yeah. So, Graham said, like, what if I borrowed the shirt and I really liked the shirt and I wanted to keep the shirt? And Marley was like, yeah, it's on the roadmap. We're going to be having an option where it's like a buy now, where the lender can say, if the person wants to keep it, they can just pay this
Yeah,
additional
that's pretty
amount of
cool.
money and they
It's like
keep
a
the
buyout,
shirt.
you know,
Yeah,
buyout for the
buyout
product.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
But you
really
know,
interesting.
I think that's all well and good, but even in her response when she said, by the way, this didn't even happen in the interview, but when she did say that, she was like, we're hoping to have that. And I do think there is, one thing that kind of freaked me out was the co-founder issue, and we'll come back to the product because I do want to talk more about that later, but it just seems like a natural point here to talk to that where she doesn't code, right? Which is cool.
Right.
I don't code either. It's fine. You don't have to code. It's fine. But you probably need somebody in your business if you're going to be a software company or to have if you're the network, which is what she is, her product is software, like her platform, that's what it is. Like you're going to need somebody who can code in-house.
I got to be honest with you. I would have 100% agreed with you. And partially because we are that prototypical set of co-founders.
And we did business perfectly right.
Never made a mistake.
And that's this episode of Startup Different. Yeah.
No, but I always use that analogy, the Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer, so like the coder and the sales guy, right?
Yeah.
And there's Marley who doesn't have a co-founder, is doing it solo. She's got a lead developer that's full-time working for her. So does she actually need, maybe this is a myth we're busting, that you need a coder on your founding team?
I don't know though. I feel like it's possible. I feel like it just improves her odds of success.
Oh,
I guess that's the way.
I just had another thought.
Did it hurt?
There was somebody else that we talked to. In fact, it was 3 brothers, and there was no coder.
That's true. Mehdi, eh? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you guys may remember,
Mehdi
listeners, we interviewed Mehdi, who was the CEO or is the CEO of Applyboard when we were at the Collision Conference. And actually, following, I have this in our recap episode, but following that interview, I said to him, hey, I want to meet your coder brother. And he's like, there isn't one. There was no coder brother.
You would think if you had 3 brothers in the business, one of them is a coder.
It's got to be one nerd.
Yeah, come on, you kidding me, right? Like, yeah, it's true, I guess. And they're a unicorn, like a $4 billion company, right?
No coder founder.
No coder
right?
founder.
Which is really
That's interesting, actually.
So maybe we're blowing up a myth here on this.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you're redundant?
Am I fired? Yay!
You're fired. Yay.
It finally happened. Get my life
We
back.
need a studio audience. Can we get a producer? Let's get a laugh track going. Anyway, all right. Okay. So I think. Well, how about this? Would it hurt to have a CTO, in her current situation? Maybe like it doesn't have to be like an equity holder or like founder or something, but somebody that she's at least. I know what you're going to say. Like she should offer equity to the CTO and all that kind of stuff if it's going to be a co-founder. But I just think like it's got to improve the chances of success. I just feel like when you have, like we don't know that, and no disrespect to Mehdi Basiri or anything like that, but we don't know that that's like because they didn't have a coder co-founder that they were like more successable.
They're
right?
also, correct me if I'm wrong, they were in Kitchener-Waterloo area. Like,
yeah.
I feel like there's, you're tripping over coders on every street corner there. Like it's,
okay.
Maybe it was a lot easier for them to find the type of skills.
The barista just has like a master's in computer science.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's not. But I just find it interesting that Marley didn't need it, and I don't think she's like she's looking for like a CTO, but I don't think she's looking for a co-founder.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
Maybe. I think. I don't know. We are not
We have
her,
no
but
idea.
I kind of felt like she was leaning that way.
Okay.
I think there's other things too. Like even though you were also a coder co-founder and also my brother and still are, that doesn't, continuing on, it still doesn't necessarily like there's other things that you bring to the table other than coding, right? Like there is kind of like, having another person to even just be at sort of managing the entire company who's as invested in it as you, I think is really, really helpful. And she did also mention, right, that some of those, like, I can't remember which innovation space she was suggesting, or YC or something like that.
Yeah.
Y Combinator.
Yep.
That they won't even look at you unless you have a co-founder. So there is something to it, I think, beyond just the literal technical skills.
So we may not have the data here.
We may not.
That's why we're disagreeing.
Yeah. Well, you're wrong, but agree to disagree.
I don't agree to that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Neither do I. Okay, we had a couple of other cool things. Let's kind of, I don't know if we're zooming in or out, but on the product itself, she kind of talked about how she went to market with this sort of like half product.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? I do stand by what I said in that interview, which is I think she was right.
The slow and laggy, is that half product or is that half-ass product? I think it's where you draw the line, right?
See, but yeah, I think a tough call. Like if it's not laggy, isn't that the product? Like isn't that the finished product? Like a version 01 or isn't that reasonably sufficient?
Yeah, it's the battling analogies here, right? Like, don't go to market with a half-ass product. Just a half product is the one analogy of, like do it right. So against what she did, kind of. But then the other analogy is if you aren't embarrassed by your version 1, then you launch too late.
It's the same book. I'm pretty sure those are both Lean Startup by Eric Ries, but
I don't know about
anyway,
that.
It doesn't
but
matter.
anyways.
But yeah, I understand your point.
But like she was a bit embarrassed by her first
she was.
version.
Yeah.
But was very just like upfront with everybody.
But how
about
else is she going to get the feedback to build
Exactly.
the actual product? Like I just think that it's just a means to an end.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, you're going to turn off. So you have a couple thousand users. They see the product. They like it. They think it's pretty good. Does that, you're going to turn off some people, sure, because it's slow or whatever. But those are your early adopters anyway that are going after that product, that are trying it out. They're going to be tolerant of that half product. They're going to be interested in providing feedback to the founder of the company, which she also alluded to as helping.
So I feel like, I think back to my initial thought on this was, is, a laggy, slow app, is that half product or half-ass product? What's your feeling on it?
I think it's half product.
I think it's half product.
I think it's half product. Look at us. Hey,
yeah. No, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. Because I know, yeah.
Like it's going to lag. It's also software.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. People are, in a way, sometimes I feel like if you're a certain age or higher when you were using software, you're like, it should just know. It just works. But I feel like, with a lot of her target demographic is going to be, around her age or younger. And I feel like they're going to have a pretty high tolerance for at least some variability in how consistent the software is. And she's being super upfront that this is a early MVP. We're trying to get this out there. We're trying to make this work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it works. It does actually work.
Yeah.
It does the thing.
Like it was conducting commerce. It was doing what it was supposed to do, But you like
conducting commerce.
Yeah. We're trying to conduct commerce here.
Come on here, people. Okay. Let's shift gears again for a second. What did you think about, and I'm of two minds of this, so I'm really interested in your take, of the incubating sort of the business in Canada, where you're kind of a stone's throw away from the US market, which is bigger, a lot bigger, but more competitive. And it makes me think of kind of, and one of the business myths out there a lot of the time is that when you're thinking about like total addressable market, people are like, I want a really big market. That way, if I get 1% of the market, we're all going to be billionaires, right?
Right.
But I think that's definitely not a good way to go about it. Which I would argue that you're looking for a niche market, a very targeted space, something that you can do really well on. And I think that effectively, Canada is a niche market for this kind of consumer product because you're going to be up against. If they're all in the US, they're going to be in LA, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, whatever. That's tons of market for those companies to try and figure out.
Yeah.
She's got her own almost like secured off space. They're not going to go New York then Toronto.
Okay, so just a couple of thoughts. Like,
oh boy,
when we found it very difficult to go from Canadian market to US market.
We had a B2B business.
We were a B2B business. Yeah. That's what I was going to add to that comment. Okay, but
that's fine.
I want to put one other thing out there as well. We even had a hard time. I remember we had like everywhere except Alberta, and we had a hard time getting into Alberta.
Yeah,
for some reason, we had every other province pretty much covered except maybe like Nunavut or something
PEI.
like that. Or,
actually, we did have
PEI.
We had
PEI.
University PEI.
Yep.
Nice.
But
shout out to UPEI.
Yeah. So we had like the entire market in Canada. We didn't have almost anything in Alberta, and it was really tough to get in there for some reason. So I don't know if I would say that like, Canada is like a good like jumping off point to get into the US. I think your first market in the US is a good jumping off point to get into the US. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Okay, sure.
Like you need a beachhead in
I guess
the
what
US,
I'm saying is I think she could have a very successful consumer-focused business in Canada with relatively less competition, which would put her in a position to potentially make a living at it and maybe have a very, very good living, like very profitable enterprise.
Right.
Without necessarily feeling the pressures of an American company coming up north. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and by the way, I kind of feel like and to our American listeners, you might get some good insight in Canadian psychology here, is I feel like you might, from Canada, we can always look down and watch what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. She'll pick up stuff from what she sees American firms doing.
Yeah.
And then be able to do some of that in Canada. And I feel like she has a really strong advantage to be able then to innovate in this market.
Yeah.
She's going to be one of a handful of players in Canada if our experience is consistent.
I think like geography is one of her biggest advantages and one of her biggest disadvantages.
Yeah, you're like city only with this business.
Right. So like
Vancouver,
for instance,
Calgary, Toronto.
She's kind of got like economies of scale. She's got enough in that marketplace in Toronto that it's going.
Yeah.
Okay. But then now you go to a new city and like she said, we don't have anybody posting anything yet. We don't have any inventory to rent or to borrow. So, it's going to be a slog to go from city to city. But the big advantage is that I think once you're established and you're that like localized market to do that, then you're really established. It's going to be hard for somebody else to break into it. But the legwork involved in setting up those different regions is going to be tricky because I think the tough part is the shipping. Because if you're renting something like a $100 shirt is renting for $20 and you might have, shipping's expensive, like you're going to probably spend more on shipping to get it there and back than that.
Definitely. Depending on the price, if it's 20% of the retail price of the product.
Now, if you're back to the, sequin
ball gown,
that's worth a fortune and you're renting it for hundreds of dollars, then maybe the shipping is not such a big deal. But I think what they're going after, she was talking about
the mid space.
Yeah. So that kind of makes it.
I feel like the mid market space and this tool, generally speaking, is really well suited to like university campuses. Just being honest, because if that's the space you want to attack, the kind of casual wear that's in style, the athleisure wear, you know what that is?
Not really.
No, you don't know. You never heard that term.
Is that Vuori stuff? Is that what they sell?
I do like, kind of, I guess. It's like Lululemon mostly.
Right.
Where I watched this thing once where they asked all these, this sounds super credible, definitely a good source of data. I watched this thing and it was about jewelry store clerks, and they asked them, they look at a bunch of photos of people and they said, which one of these people has the most money? And there was like somebody wearing like furs, somebody wearing like whatever. And then one person was wearing like athleisure, so like Lululemon, like tight pants and, an athletic shirt and whatever. And they were all like, that person. That's the wealthiest person.
Really?
Yeah, and they were right every single time.
No way.
Yeah, because that's just, it's expensive. That person's wearing like $1,000 in stuff. Anyway, I digress here. I guess the point is, I think that for her mid-market play, I think there's a surprising amount of like wealth variation on a single university campus. There's a good variety of clothing. And if you wanted to try something different, the prices of her platform didn't seem that significant if you're considering it's 20% of the retail cost of something.
Right.
And students need money.
Yeah.
Right. So, hey, I'm going to start my side hustle as I have a RAX closet.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
That's
it seems like there's a lot of demand in one place.
Yeah. So actually that kind of gets into that. I don't know. We're kind of jumping around a little bit, but the product proliferation.
Oh yeah, we have to come back to that. So I'm glad you're driving the ship today, man. Like,
Sorry,
I'm just happy to be here.
I'm just trying to keep up with you.
Yeah.
No, but that was one of the other things we were talking about was this idea that I think when Uber first came out, they were kind of thinking like it's like a side hustle. You're bored some evening and you want to make a few extra bucks. You get in your car and you do some Uber rides, you make a few extra bucks. Then it kind of became a point where, like whenever I get in an Uber, it's like, this guy's got, 4.9 stars and has done, 5,500 rides or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
true.
Okay.
I'm a 5,500 rides or more. I can't do lower than that. Like, I won't do
This is this guy's job.
Yeah,
okay?
no, he's working.
And there's going to be a moment, I think, where RAX is going to be like, people are going to be like, okay, I'm a really savvy shopper. So I can kind of game the formula. I'm going to go out and buy the expensive Prada or whatever high-end clothes. I'm going to get it on sale and I'm going to rent it out. And the formula, I think it was 20% of the retail price to rent it. Yep. So if you get that half off, you rent it 2.5 times, and you're in profit.
There's there's definitely a way that you could make a pretty good living doing this.
Just doing this. Yeah.
I love network businesses too. What's interesting about it is it's a network business and an idle capital business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like she controls the network that the people do this on. She gets a cut of everything that happens, and it's something that everybody has.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
But
like think of what other idle capital things do you have? Because like Uber's kind of covered the cars.
I think about this all the
Airbnb's
time,
kinda
and I have
covered-
no idea.
Like no, but think about it. Like what else do you have of value? Like other than your car and your home. So Uber, Airbnb. Like
you know what? It's
your wardrobe is probably the next thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe like accessories too, like watches and stuff. Like you probably
Yeah.
like stuff that you can't wear. Well, I mean, unless you're like Flava Flav or something, you're not gonna wear like multiple watches,
Right.
You know what I mean? But like, I feel like that the other thing I like about it too is that. So we did also ask her this question too. Like, what if somebody just runs off with the clothes? You know, somebody rents a pair of pants from you, and then those pants
yeah.
are gone forever. And you know, there's this whole like, well, we charge the credit card to the fullest, and if that credit card's not real, then you know, we have an insurance policy, that kind of thing. But that was kind of interesting to me too, because I was like, what is this like fallback, you know, position if
Yeah.
something like that happens?
Yeah.
But you know, the value of the product is pretty low, in absolute terms.
Right.
It's $50. Let's
Yeah.
say we didn't ask for an average, but let's say it's $75 or something, $50. So what?
Yeah.
Okay, not a big deal. You know, if Uber operated this way and somebody like stole your car, yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So like, I really think it's a nice sweet spot of a
Right.
bunch of different overlapping. Like, it's not too expensive. It's useful. It's, you know, it's easy to use. It's important. It's practical. It's in these like zones where people have a lot of it. They can make money on it. She controls the network.
Yeah.
Great business.
Yeah.
Very
Really
impressed.
interesting
Very
business.
impressed.
Yeah.
So RAX, very cool. Really enjoyed the conversation. And thank you, Chris, for this lovely deep dive. Folks, that's this episode of Startup Different. We please rate the pod. Of course, check us out on YouTube as well. And just a fun reminder that we will have another episode next week. We'll have another guest. Very excited for it. Till then, enjoy the rest of your week and rock on. Rock on, brother.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end of the episode. Nicely done. If you enjoyed this episode, like, comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so the almighty algorithm can help others find us. Want more from Startup Different? Check out our book, Startup Different, the myth-busting blueprint for your multi-million-dollar business. Follow us on social. We're big on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can also check us out at startupdifferent.com. Special thanks for this episode to Graham and our friends at Toronto Podcasts. Visit them at torontopodcast.ca. See you next week.